Good evening and welcome to Face for the Newsfirst team. I'm Niresh Selyatambi. Is Sri Lanka on the road to recovery now? We've got a new president. We've got a new parliament which we are going to elect in a few days' time. And then, of course, comes the hard part. The country needs to get going. The economy, industries, technology, all of that, because it's a long road ahead. And to discuss these matters, we have with us a person who knows something about technology and industries. It's Mr. Chathuranga Abeysinghe, who is well known, of course, to voters around the country, having been in the forefront of the NPP's campaigns. Chathuranga is, of course, running for Parliament this time from the Colombo district. Welcome and good evening, Chathuranga.
Good evening and thank you for this opportunity.
Right. So just a few more days to go, Chathuranga.
Yeah.
Then all your hard work, we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, I think it's a hard work of all the citizens of this country. Various ways people have contributed to this change, and we are the representatives of that, and we are proud to be that representatives of that change.
Very good. And change is, of course, the order of the hour. We haven't had a lot of changes in the last month and a half because it's a new government and a 3-member cabinet. And of course, with the parliamentary election on the way, and obviously we'll have a new parliament and a new cabinet with perhaps 25 ministers in it if the NPP wins. So we haven't had a lot of changes, but we've had some significant appointments, and especially where the economy is concerned. So Chathuranga, where economic recovery is concerned, how is this going to be driven? Because we had the Ranil Wickremesinghe government did stabilize some of the macro external factors, but that was at the expense of the people. Higher taxation, more people, millions in poverty, and so on, which was basically not sustainable. So how would your party, if it were to form the next government, how would it drive this forward while ensuring that the people don't continue to suffer?
Yeah, so Niresh, I think we first need to understand where are we. I think for the last 40 years, our economy has not performed compared to other economies. We have a huge trade deficit. We have a huge fiscal deficit. Resulting of that, we have a huge local debt, as well as we have a huge external debt. And especially the last few years was about coming out of a exchange crisis we had, where our essentials were not we weren't able to purchase our essentials. So I think for National People's Power also, this economic stability or stabilizing the entire economy is the first priority. I think we have already started that process, and especially when we came onto power, when Honorable Dissanayake became the president, 2 days before that, Niresh, a bond restructuring agreement was reached. So we couldn't renegotiate anything around it, but we wanted to take it forward fast. And we've done it.
So what you're saying was that the agreements which were reached already ensured that the new government had to follow a certain path.
Yes, because we met a lot of bondholders before the election. That is why we said in the manifesto that we will renegotiate the debt sustainability analysis, or we will use an alternative debt sustainability analysis to negotiate a better deal for Sri Lanka. But unfortunately, it has been done. So as a sovereign nation, because it was agreements made by the government, we are honoring to it. And what we wanted is to fast track this process and get the credit ratings up by the first quarter of 2025. and then we would be putting up a budget for 2025, which will include some of the changes that we presented during the presidential campaign. Because what happened was in the process of stabilization, especially in the fiscal consolidation, the previous government did not look at their cost structures. They did not look at reprioritizing their expenditures. What they basically did was took the list of consumption patterns in Sri Lanka and the industries that were running. They look at ways that they can increase taxes and meet the demands or the thresholds of the IMF. That is where the country started falling apart. The SME sector has fallen apart. The professionals have left the country. The hardships for people in terms of their not having their meals on the table, these were the repercussions of the processes or the actions that were taken. So insensitive and not strategic and counterproductive. So that is where we would find alternative ways to meet the same targets. So we are very much clearly saying to the public also, we would be within the thresholds of the agreed ratios of IMF program, but we will give alternative ways of fiscal consolidation, cost reductions, reprioritization of expenditure, and also fixing the leakages of revenue and widening the tax net. So this is what we will do differently during 2025. But 2025 is also going to be a stabilization phase, carefully managing the economy and building our reserves, and at the same time parallelly supporting our industries which are already falling apart.
Now, I get what you're saying about 2025 being a year of stabilization. But Chathuranga, when you look at the alarming quantum of debt that your government would inherit, you can't simply go at 3%, 4% growth. We're simply going to fall into bigger debt.
Yes.
Even if our GDP is growing. So you need those 7%, 8% types of economic growth.
Fast growth.
You can't think anything beyond about 8%. Very few countries have ever achieved that. But if we can get to 6, 7, 8%, then we'd be confident, and the world would have faith in us as well, like the world has faith in India right now, because India is growing at 6% plus. So how do we get to that level? And you do have, at least right now, we have something like 4%, 4.4%.
That's the last quarter.
Yes. So you can expect that to easily go to 5% next year. But how do you push it up? Which industries will take us there? Because right now we're depending on tea and the labor from the
foreign remittances and stuff.
All that.
So Neeraj, you are right. I think that is why in our manifesto we clearly said we want to reach a run rate GDP growth of about 6.5. And as you correctly said, local consumption, local GDP growth is not going to give us a excuse by 2029 when we wanted to repay our dollar loans. So that is why our focus will be on a export-oriented manufacturing economy, both goods and services, to reach a target of about 45 billion annual run rate. Currently we are at about 17.9. We are 12 billion coming out of goods exports and another 5 billion coming out of services exports. So I think for us, the first 2 to 3 years, the real growth is going to come from tourism and IT. Because those are the sectors, if the government put things in right place and support the industry where it should, can yield us a higher dollar return, and also the income distribution, especially in the tourism, it will go across the country, because the value addition in tourism is benefiting many in the society as well. There are so many industries supporting the tourism industry. So I think tourism industry, IT is going to be our key, And the agriculture piece, the local consumption and the export agriculture is another piece that we would support heavily, and we would seek for investments, and the government support will be given. And apart from that, Nilesh, we do have a huge potential on our maritime, the blue economy, right? So based on our location and our ports, there is a lot of potential to improve our services and trade based on the sea, including fisheries and including minerals in that sea. So I think that is where we would bank on about another 3 billion. So, so these are the 3 or 4 areas where we would put a lot of effort, but going in the long run, we do have potential in certain minerals as well. Apart from that, Nilesh, I think we need to understand thus far we have lived through the labor that we exported. When I say labor, it's not even with any dignity. It's about sending our mothers and sisters to Middle East and our youth to South Korea and Israel. So what we want to do is a bridging program quickly, where the globally demanded qualified labor, professional labor in terms of nursing, healthcare, marine services, and even things like tourism and IT, that we will create another bunch of workforce that they will go overseas and give us a better revenue with certain amount of acceptance and qualifications and standards in labor. So these are the things that we would focus heavily, and how we would do that is the strong support to the private sector by the government. If somebody is already sending something out, we need to find the bottlenecks. The current bottlenecks are the ones which were created by the previous government. Your input raw material is taxed now. And if you are SME, you are taxed at 30%. You don't have any incentive to do business. And then when it comes to your approval processes, the delays that you have, there is no cohesive plan within the government. The departments are not working together. You had to bribe certain areas. You have to still go behind ministers. I think this is what will change. And even we are going to bring technology so that it will help the industrialists to make their lives easy. And you know, in terms of especially certifications, approvals, how to make those things better. And while supporting what's already here, for either those priority industries, we will be calling in for FDIs. I think these are the few things that if we can get right, we think we can. With the plan that we have, we can reach that target by 2029, having enough reserves to repay a 3 billion plus annual payment.
Well, that's good to hear, and glad to hear the optimism in your voice with that, you know, that we are not going to be bankrupt for the rest of our lives. Now, let me ask you some specific questions. Let's take the SME sector, small and medium and micro. So that sector runs on credit. I mean, if you have a shop, you're a shopkeeper, you're selling goods, you have to have a certain amount of credit, whether it is from a bank or other lending institutions, in order to stock your shops, because your one shop would have 5 million to 10 million worth
rolling
of
cash.
So you need that. And then what happened with the economic debacle was that these people were unable to pay. And then, of course, if they had taken money from a lending institution, bank or whatever, they got blacklisted in the crib. And there they remain, because so far most, over 100,000 such businesses went belly up. So many of those entrepreneurs did leave the country. They sold what they had and tried to leave. But many do remain. And they have that expertise. They were running businesses successfully. It's not their fault that the government messed everything up. But right now, they can't access credit. Because, if they go to a bank and say, I want to buy a van, lease a van, because I'm distributing goods. And bank says, well, the crib report says,
we can't lend you anymore.
yeah. So then how do you sort this out? Because this is a huge
This is a huge issue,
for,
Nilesh.
for
I think
the
this
SMEs.
is probably the biggest issue that we have. Our NPL is 1.7 trillion in the banking sector, and it's impacting the banks also. And if you take the SME sector, it's about 350 billion. The previous government released 5 billion for this problem, right? So what we have to understand is the gravity of the problem. First place, since we never had development banks, since we were not part of cooperative banking system, the SME sector or the startups had to borrow at commercial rates. That is one problem. And on top of that, when the economy collapsed, the aggregate demand collapsed, and the government purposefully shrink the economy, so entire SME sector went underwater. So now the problem is, how do you get them back to do business, to do manufacturing, to do trading, to give services? So that is where our policy is very clear. Even for the presidential election, there's a great focus to reviving these entrepreneurs, because the president clearly says it's easy for the businessman who's running the business to run, rather you restart a fresh set of entrepreneurs. It will take time, right? So what we are going to do now is we are going to temporarily push this parate law execution. We want to request the banks. I'm not the spokesperson of the government, but we have now been having various discussions with our economic advisors and the people who handle the economy now, to ensure that the parate law execution is extended a bit more. And also we are planning to use a solution which was used by other countries in such a situation. When a country's NPL goes high, the government temporarily introduced a concept called a relief bank. In some countries it's called bad banking. So what you do is the bad loans in the private banks, you pull it out of those balance sheets and put it into a relief bank. So from a banking perspective, banks are not burdened anymore. Their balance sheets get cleared, and the SME sector will get a rescheduling for their loans with a longer tenure and a lower interest rate. And this needs to be financed by the state. And this is the plan that we have. I'm not saying that we would have a solution for entire 350 billion, but starting from the most vulnerable to the smallest, we should be able to release certain structure that can take this burden and help these SMEs to recover. So we also need the banking system of Sri Lanka to also take a certain burden at this point in this recovery. It's an enormous problem, because the government is bankrupt. Government also don't have enough funds to bail out an economy, right? I mean, if it was a developed economy and they went through a recession, the government would have bailed out 350 billion without asking, right? That's how other countries have revived. But it's a difficult task, but we are tasked to it. We are responsible for the SME sector. Now we are the government. We are going to work together, work hard at it, and provide a solution within the first 6 months of next year.
Now, one of the biggest mistakes that previous governments have made is that they unilaterally, arbitrarily take decisions without talking to the stakeholders.
Yes.
So in this case, it would be the SME. There are, I think, some associations and so on, which would, I mean, I believe you all have spoken to them, but that has to continue.
Yeah, Anish, actually it was me who kind of got those SME sectors together, and we had a very good conversation with Dr. Surya Peruma and Dr. Anil Janta. That was last week. So we are creating a working committee to work towards a solution, and government is aware of it, and we were at the opposition fighting for a solution. So we were part of the SME sector representing them. So we are going to find a solution. This country can find a solution. That's why we said either through the banking sector, or even introducing a new development bank, or introducing the funds that are scattered in the cooperative banking system, we will be able to solve this. And the SME sector, some are asking a greater relief because they can't bear this anymore. Some says if there's a restructuring, that's enough. They will start paying, you know. They just need a certain breathing space. And these
That's
are
right.
things that we have to negotiate with our banks. I think our banking system will help the entire country, and they have to help this nation to ensure that this problem is resolved without animosity. I mean, without, you know, ending. I mean, 127 people have killed themselves. And it's their assets, it's their personal assets that's as collateral. It's not even business assets. I mean, of course, like if your business is bankrupt, you leave your business premises. But now you have done business with putting your own land and your own home as collateral. So we need to find a solution. I'm not saying it's easy. Now we are tasked to it. I think NPP government will take care of this.
Well, I think that's another issue. If 127 entrepreneurs have actually committed suicide, then the banking sector needs to take a hard look at the methods that they use, such as this parate execution and these other methods.
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg situation. I don't think, I mean, from the banks also, they would have done their best to, I mean, I'm not saying every bank, but most banks would have done their best to support the SME sector. But if the demand is not there, if people are taxed, I mean, if the professionals are taxed like this, you wouldn't go for a movie. You wouldn't go for a drama.
That's another area
right?
that I want to ask you about taxation.
If the SME is, if the professionals are taxed in this way, we are not spending on anything. So that means the SME sector doesn't have demand. Absolutely. The small boutique hotels or small hotels around the country won't have bookings from the locals because locals are taxed heavily. That is why the government is very keen to give this relief to the professional and the income earning crowd, so it has a ripple effect on the economy. Because what we are doing now is we are allowing people to make money and the government is taking that money out and you are shrinking the entire economy. It's not recirculating.
So there's no point making money if the government is going to take it from you.
Well, I think it's a hard thing. I don't say that I mean, obviously you guys need to understand that we will not be foolish as Gotabaya Rajapaksa to lose the entire revenue pot and get bankrupt within 6 months. We will carefully do this. As much as we collect more from the leakages, we will release more in VAT. As much as we collect more from inland revenue and the leakages in customs, we will release more in income taxes. As much as we collect more from widening the tax net, we will release more to the industries as benefits. So I think that's the process we are going to take.
But now, Chathuranga, you kept saying as much as the government basically earns more, it can provide these benefits,
yes.
Right? But in plugging these leakages, are you still going to rely on the corrupt institutions like the customs, the excise, the inland revenue? These are, can you walk into them without holding your nose, basically?
Well, Nilesh, I think this power transfer is not something that happened through an accident. We knew what we were going to get. We knew the crisis. We knew the state sector is inefficient. We knew the critical areas. If you have to fix, what are those critical areas? As you correctly said, the customs. You ask any industrialist here, they'll say, fix customs, Chathuranga, fix customs, right? And if you say someone to do with excise duty, they'll say they take bribe every day. They don't get the entire revenue from any liquor shop, right? And then when it comes to inland revenue, there are a lot of allegations around it, why people don't collect taxes and all that.
Well,
so we are
aware. It's
not
just allegations, it's common knowledge.
It's common knowledge. So that is why before the power, we establish enough knowledge within those institutions the colleagues who were working with NPP, unions that were working with NPP to come up with a proper plan. And with that plan only, we presented our manifesto saying by providing these benefits, we are going to lose 180 billion, and we have a way to get that up. So how? So number one is the leadership. So the ministers who are going to lead these institutions will be very strong, very much equipped and blessed by the president himself to make the changes first. Second, we will be introducing technology for all three institutions, including lands, registry, as well as the vehicle RMV. So what's going to happen now is, and we got the best of the best to do this, right? We got Dr. Hans coming down with a very strong team looking at these priority areas, and the technology will be something that nobody can deny within that system, and that will bring efficiency, bring transparency, and also collect us more taxes as well. So we are banking on technological transformation. We are banking on systematic change within that process. We are banking on changes in critical roles in those institutions, which is going to happen now to 14th, and to ensure that there's a huge transformation that entire country is seeking within first 6 months of the new government. And we are very confident of doing it. And Niresh, you might ask, is this possible? Singapore has done it. South Korea did it. Vietnam did it. India did it. Why can't Sri Lanka? So we are very confident.
Hold that thought, because we'll discuss more about it once we return. We head for a short commercial break right now. Don't go away.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Welcome back to Face to Face. We are in conversation with Chathuranga Abeysinghe, representing the NPP, and he is running for Parliament from the Colombo district. Now, Chathuranga, we were discussing the economic reforms, what needs to be done, and let's talk about the brain drain. So many professionals have fled the country.
Yes.
Hopefully that will ease up now. But one of the key issues was unfair taxation, when the taxes were just suddenly vaulted up to 36%. And, you know, whether you're a doctor or a pilot or whatever, you may be earning millions, but you are used to a certain standard of life. You may have bought a BMW or a Benz car. I mean, if you're a successful doctor, you're entitled to that. You've worked hard all your life, but you've leased it. You've taken a car loan, and suddenly the money that you set aside every month for that vehicle is being taken by the government. So what do? You'd leave the country because you can earn much more in another country anyway. How are you going to sort this out? I mean, obviously it's easy to say, let's bring down the taxes from 36% down. But what's the modality
I think,
for this?
it's a psychological change that we are going through. I think as a country we are going through a pace of change and hope, right? So that is a big piece. I don't think everybody left Sri Lanka because of the taxes. They left Sri Lanka because they didn't have hope. Even by paying high taxes, if they were getting their child's education, they would have stayed. If when you pay high taxes, if your health cost is borne by the government, they would have stayed. If you paid your taxes, as you said before the program, that you are coming on train, if the public transport is at a proper place, you would have stayed back. If you pay, when you pay your taxes, if you are confident of your children to live in a country where the law is above all, you would have stayed. Those are the reasons why people left. So how the NPP government going to change? That's why we say this is a renaissance. This is the change that we are looking at. So you would see politicians making the first change. We didn't see it last year. We didn't see when people are suffering, politicians reducing their costs. We didn't see politicians pooling their vehicles. We didn't see their private, staff being curtailed. We didn't see their securities and their extraordinary expenditure within the government institutions has been slashed. This is where the change is going to come. So people will start seeing a behavioral change in the leadership. And we would be passing on possible benefits down to the people. And we would be fixing education. We would be fixing health. We would be fixing transportation. So these three things together, with the legal system coming into play, I think people who have already decided to stay back in Sri Lanka is going to stay back. And people who already went there and still struggling to settle will come back. And the economy will start to revive. And this is the social change, cultural change we are going to bring. It's not a technical thing. It's a mindset shift. And I think that's what we can bring by leading by example, giving inspiration to our children, making changes in our education, cleaning our roads, ensuring that you have a public toilet to walk, ensuring when you come to Colombo, if you are coming in train, you have drinking water. These are the changes that people would get inspired to stay back. Of course, the monetary benefits will come along as much as the economy grows and the fiscal consolidation takes place. But beyond that, humans need some kind of hope to hold on to. And that's what we are going to bring.
Well, that's good to hear, certainly for those of us who have stayed back. And of course, many people question why we stayed back, but it's a love for the country and a love for...
And it's right, no? We were born in the most beautiful plot of land on earth.
Absolutely.
And we go to one side, we have clean drinking water. We have go to the other side, we have a sea to bath. We go to the other side, we have various diverse trees and animals to watch.
So let me ask you now, all this is our tourism gold mine.
Yes.
If you're a foreign tourist, there's no better deal than Sri Lanka.
Food is cheap still.
There are certain other countries in Asia which are also great value for money. But we don't seem to do much of a job of marketing the country.
Yeah.
Of course, now there is a new chairman of Sri Lanka Tourism.
Yeah.
And he and his colleagues will no doubt get to work. Yeah. But how soon would your government want to see a proper marketing campaign put out for Sri Lanka? Because we haven't had one in more than 10 years.
Yeah. So I think, Nilesh, this is one of the biggest problems apart from structural issues we have in tourism is a destination marketing, right? We had 4 or 5 brands within last 15 years.
Yeah, but that's sort of just
it's just the branding, right?
The
so
brand.
The thing is, for you to launch Sri Lanka again, you have to ensure that you create the right products.
That's right.
So when I say tourism products, whether it's leisure tourism, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's about experiential tourism, whether it's adventure, whether it's culture. So there are various products that Sri Lanka already has. But these products are not standardized. So that you go to one wellness center in Dambulla is different to when you go to down south, right? And your experience in a particular hotel in Kandy is different to your experience. Obviously there will be uniqueness in each area, but the products have not standardized. So therefore, before we launch, we have to get the product right. So I think it will take a little bit of time to zone out the area. Now we are going to zone out, like we are going to have Anuradhapura Habarana as one zone. And then the Jaffna Peninsula as one zone, then the Goal as one zone, Alla area is now another zone. So we'll have about 10 dedicated identified zones for tourism, and each of these zones will have their unique products. And when these products are designed and developed is where we can take it to as a launch. And I think we should not rush. We've already late, we've not done anything, but we can't rush also. So let the team figure out this with the industry, how and what and how we are going to brand and launch that branding with the branding of Sri Lanka. Now, tourism is not in isolation. If you are at the 113 point of the corruption index and people don't have hope on their rulers, and if someone comes down here time to time, you get robbed in a train, the brand is associated. The tourism brand is associated to Sri Lankan Airlines. When there's bad comments about Sri Lankan Airlines, you can't brand tourism. So you have to get the entire thing fixed and tell the world we are moving ahead. We are a beautiful country. We are a clean country. And our people are happy. They have meal in there. If a tourist comes and sees our children in poverty, that's not happiness.
Absolutely.
Right? So we need to get the entire system running properly and at the right sweet spot, relaunch Sri Lanka as Sri Lanka.
But all this, you're talking about the system change that was desired by the people. But the people are also impatient because they have suffered for many years.
Yeah.
You have to understand and pardon the people because they continue to suffer. Somebody who is below the poverty line can't feed his children, couldn't feed them last year, can't feed them now, and is impatient to see some change. So how soon can we expect these changes? Are they going to be rolled out quickly after the election, after the new cabinet?
So, Nilesh, I think what you said is right. As much as we talk about strategy, as much as we talk about things that needs to happen, and things that we talk in this particular language to the audience that we are listening, there's a hell lot of people who's suffering on a daily basis. That is where our relief package will come. So the government, that's why I said we are going to reallocate. We are going to cut unnecessary expenditure. We are going to stop unnecessary expenditure. We are going to spend on education, health and food. And that's going to come after this election as a benefit package to children who's going to school, the allowances for purchase of books. And this is costly. I'm not saying it's easy. And there's going to be a particular amount that's going to get reallocated for the benefits of the people who have fallen below the poverty line. And that is going to come just after the election because we will run with the vote on account for about 2 to 3 months. So that particular package will be included in that. And there will be more benefits in the budget that needs to come.
Now, Chathuranga, once again, let me bring you to the point of two-way communication between the government and the people. Now, Sri Lanka is a country where everyone knows about everyone. You can't hide anything. Yes. Everyone gets to know, or someone gets to know. So if you're a corrupt official, if you're mismanaging a department or even a Pradesh Sabha, people know about it.
Yeah.
But how will they be able to communicate with the government? Are you all looking at setting up some hotlines, or how would it happen? Because you have this huge wealth of knowledge. You don't have to actually go and delve into each department because
I think that's true, Raj. I think the people were never heard. The government, when people appointed a government, people were never part of that government afterwards. So this government is going to be very different. We already have structures that we have established as a political party that gives us intelligence now here where things are happening, but it's not formal. So what we are going to do is we are going to have technology for each state institution that when you ask for a request or you make a complaint, that will be digitally available, and entire process will be visible digitally in terms of when did you make that complaint, against whom you. So there will be two channels. One is a channel that you can reveal yourself. Other channel is an anonymous channel that you can make a complaint about. So it will be digitally available for people to share your experience about the service that you receive. I mean, every service we use, like Uber, PickMe, or even Food City, we share our experience, and that is how they continuously improve. So our philosophy of government service is customer-centric government service. So if we want to improve, we have to have the feedback, and our politicians, NPP, are willing to hear that out, and will show that to our own state officials and say, how do you solve this? This is what people are saying. This is getting delayed. What's the solution? What's the process? We went through this last few weeks with the passport. It's not something that we did. It was a delay in passports, which created a huge backlog. But we heard people, we got the feedback, some people gave solutions also, and now something is implemented which is sustainable. So that's how it will work.
Now, at the ground level, you still have hundreds of thousands of local officials, whether they are in departments, Pradesh Sabhas or whatever. Now, those would remain, obviously.
Yeah.
And many of them are the problem, including police stations, local government authorities, and so on. And the public has got used to this situation where, don't complain because you're going to be victimized for complaining. And this is a fact of life. You have things like village committees where people don't even want to serve on those, because soon as they bring something up and they say, well, there's this problem, that problem, the blowback comes on them.
Yes. And even the state officials who complain about their own colleague.
That's right.
You get transferred, he stays.
Yes. So are you going to have some kind of formal setup to prevent
No, I
this?
think, Niresh, there's enough rules, regulation, procedures in the government sector. I think Sri Lankan government sector is a very strong state sector, which nice policies, procedures, how to deal with corruption, how to deal with a complaint, what to do at a time of a issue. Everything is written. Everything is there.
Yes, but it's just written. It's
No, the thing is this,
practice.
right? So what happened thus far is, when some good official is trying to follow the process, you get a call from the minister. You get the political influence, or the cloud is what broke this system. Now you see 3 politicians are there now. Only 3 with power. The entire system is running now. You have lights, you have schools running, you have police running. As long as the politician don't interfere into the system can run itself. So what we will do is to bridge the gap between what systems would deliver, the entire state system is going to deliver, and the expectation of the people. So the going forward, the politician's role will change. Politician's role is not to protect someone who's beneficial to you, to protect someone who will go for your campaigning, because we don't have anyone there who has campaigned for us, right? And that is how this system is going to change. As much as the politician is not going to interfere in the legal system and the governance system will run. And if there's a bottleneck, we are there to de-bottleneck it. That's how it's going to change.
Now, when it comes to foreign direct investment, Chathuranga, what is the plan? Which investors are we targeting? Which industries are we targeting? Because there's a lot of money out there.
Yeah.
The world is swilling with money. It is a matter of locating it and making sure that we are a country which is interesting enough for those investors.
So Niresh, I think what the investors never had was a national plan. So we are going to give that. We are going to say, this is tourism, where it's going to go. This is IT, where it's going to go. These are the benefits attached to this. This is agriculture. This is what we want to do: improve productivity, bring technology, and have export-oriented agriculture system. This is what we are going to do with the sea. This is the opportunity in the maritime system. So this will be visible to all the investors within 6 to 7 months. And then they will be called in for capital, called in for technology, called in for market access. Those are the 3 reasons why we need the foreign direct investments. And when they come, they know where to meet, whom to meet, how that process will run. And after their request is validated and verified and feasibility is tested, they will have a one-stop shop where entire process of their requirements will be done by one place. There will be one person, one team who's responsible for implementation of the project. Currently, it takes 2 to 3 years to establish. So I think these industries that what I spoke of, and also especially on renewable energy, the solar and the wind power, there's going to be enormous potential for foreign direct investment.
Now, you spoke of a national plan.
Yeah.
How soon would that plan come out?
So currently we do have an idea, that is what we presented in the policy, but now we will have sectoral committees of each industry. Already the President met the Chamber of Commerce and its sectoral teams, and today I met the Chairman of Export Development Board also. So what we are going to do is get these industries to tell their potential, what they see as the potential, and government to see how that can be achieved, and commonly agree on a growth plan. So if you are running a business, your growth plan will be part of the national equation. So when we say 45 billion, you will be part of it. When you do that, your part is where we reach the target. So that entire plan is going to get set, and it will take about 3 to 6 months for the first version.
Right. I hope that this national plan will have timelines, because we have had presidents and presidents who have come out and said, we are going to be this, we are going to be that, we are going to be Singapore, we are going to be the IT hub of Asia, and so on and so forth. But there was never a time plan or proper steps. So, if you don't have a schedule, then it's just a wish list.
The industry knows what needs to happen. Very clear. We have been discussing with the industry for the last 2.5 years. The thing is, we are sitting on a time bomb. It's going to explode. And it's going to explode with NPP. Right? So we know the deadline. We know how much dollars we want to achieve. We know how much each industry should give us. And that target is the entire country is going to run for the next 5 years. We will ensure that happens. That is integratedly happening with the industry, reforming education, reforming health sector, reforming transportation to meet that goal. If we don't create enough reserves by 2029, we'll be back to square one, and it will blow up with NPP, because now we are in the driving seat, right? So we know that, and we didn't do politics just to give this away. We didn't do this level of sacrifices. People have died for this cause, to create a better country for the children. We are not going to give this away, Niresh. We will work the hardest that we could, whether it's 8 hours or 16 hours that we need to put. We are committed for that. We want the citizens to be committed as well. Now you will have a government who is not robbing you. You will have a government who has a vision. You will have a government who will dedicatedly support you. So when you have all these three, would you sleep? Won't you get up early? We are going to change this country.
Chathuranga, there are a few other, what I might call, elephants in the room. The national question is what it's called, which is the positions of the minority communities.
Yes.
And this, there's a long history behind this.
True.
A lot of, from the Black July riots and
56.
And 56. I mean, if you go back even 100 years ago, it was happening. But of more recent times, there's a lot more which has happened. And that includes 1988-89, what happened then, and the various mass graves which are being discovered even now, around the country. There's one in the port of Colombo, for goodness sake, which is now being investigated. So these issues have to be looked into. Is there a plan to look into these? Because quite frankly, I think the people are tired of being told about what's going on in Geneva, where we are brought up there like children being taken to the principal's office, and we are given a rap on the knuckles, and we deny
Keep
everything,
continuing.
and then we come back home. And then a few months later, the same process.
I
But
think
why
it is-
can't we sort this out ourselves?
I think we should. We should. I think what's first is you need empathy. You need to
Absolutely.
understand there was a problem. You need to understand people were hurt. You need to understand we did not do what we are supposed to do as a central government. The areas that we are talking about is tarnished with after war, and they never got developed after war. The children there still doesn't have education, still doesn't have technology, still doesn't have industries that they can make money out of. I'm not saying it's there in the south. It's not there in the south also, but it was always used by those politicians to gain votes, saying since we are from north, since we are from east, the central government is not supporting. Actually, central government never did anything for the entire country, right? So this is where the change is going to come, and this is going to be the first time the entire nation is going to vote one party. This is going to be the first time that the governing party does not have to give in to various demands ad hocly. This is going to be the first time that Sri Lanka will work on a national growth plan, including North and East, to be part of this growth. And this is going to be the first time that each of these areas will have their own development plan, and we will ask the diaspora to come and invest. And this is going to change for our children, because when you bring economic opportunities, economic democracy, when you bring the ability for those people to work in their language with the state, when you bring reforms which will help them to resolve their land issues, when you give them opportunity to be part of the larger economy, things are going to change. That's what we believe in. And we are going to put a lot of effort in healing, a lot of effort in good faith, a lot of effort to ensure that entire nation strives together as Sri Lanka, and without divisions of party politics and all those things. We have this golden opportunity. We had this opportunity in 2009, gave away, and this is another year in the Sri Lankan history, 2024. This problem can be resolved again, because there is change in everybody's heart.
Well, change is what the people have been asking for, and hopefully change is what we'll get. I'm afraid we are out of time, Chathuranga. It's been a very nice conversation.
Thank
and
you.
I'm sure our listeners learned a lot about future plans of the NPP. Thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away, because the news is coming up next. Have a good evening.